What's going on, people? I'm Offtrack Seb, and today we'll be talking about Batman Beyond. From our coverage of Spider-Man Miles Morales on the channel, it's no secret that we love legacy characters here on the Offtrack crew. The interesting thing about legacy characters is that it allows the mythos of an already popular and well-established hero to expand in a way that lets us see more stories utilizing our favorite characters in brand new ways. As some of you probably already know, popular comic book characters aren't really allowed to change in any meaningful way over the years, especially the ones that really are well established in the public zeitgeist. Whichever ones that people really know a lot about, like Batman, aren't really allowed to deviate too much from the status quo. So this results in stories where you get something new and interesting about the character, but it's immediately shuffled back or taken out or just reset so that the character goes back to a recognizable version of themselves before those changes were made. So you'll see things like Batman being killed off in one story and then being like, actually, no, he wasn't killed off, he was set in the past. Or when they almost married him off to Selena Kyle, you know, the Catwoman, and I was so happy, so excited. I was just like, damn, finally my man Batman's about to be happy. But they decided not to do it. They decided to take it away because, you know, it was just never gonna happen. Batman has to stay broody and unable to form a relationship in all his incarnations, at least the ones that are canon. But back in the 90s, Batman Beyond introduced this idea of what if Batman got too old to be Batman? Usually in the comics, they just reboot him, so that never happens. But in Batman Beyond, we see what happens when Bruce Wayne becomes too old to wear the suit. While out saving someone's life one night, Bruce almost breaks one of his most important rules about not using a gun and decides that he's getting too old for the cowl. He's getting too old to be roughing and slugging it out with just young people who are gonna give him a run for his money. Even in a suit that gives him twice the capabilities of a normal guy, allowing him, I guess it's more than like 10 times the capabilities of a normal person, allowing him to like punch through walls, fly, all of that. The new Batsuit, the future Batsuit, is very powerful. And we get to see that a lot when he passes it on to Terry, because there's certainly an argument to be made for the suit being the one responsible for most of Terry's feats, being that it's a very powerful suit. It gives him a really big leg up when he goes into fights with regular folks. Terry McGinnis, who after his father's death stumbles onto Bruce Wayne's secret identity as Batman. Bruce Wayne takes pity on the boy, having gone through the loss of both of his parents actually. Decides that he's gonna raise him, or not really raise him, but train him as his newest protege. Terry already showing interest in being the next Batman, Bruce decides that he's gonna give him a shot at it. A very reluctant shot, reminding Terry that at any point he could choose to cut off the power to the suit and just leave him stranded in it, which he does in the first episode, in a very dangerous situation in my opinion. Now the reason why this show got on my radar is because of my friend Wes, who grew up watching it. Unfortunately, I didn't grow up somewhere where this was readily available, so I never really got to see it. So this year, when I got to finally watch it, I realized that it was probably one of the better Batman stories or Batman episodic TV series ever committed to television. And it was like released in the 90s? Jesus. Well, I guess late 90s, early 2000s. But still, a very great show. And one of my favorite episodes from the show that really goes to show why Terry McGinnis is Batman, or the new Batman, that even though with the suit being as overpowered and strong as it is, Terry, the man beneath the suit, is still just as important to the mythos as, the previous Batman and all his previous Robins, is Season 2, Episode 4, Lost Souls. In it, we get to see what Terry would do without the suit. Robert Vance was a businessman and a tech pioneer who died from an incurable, debilitating disease 35 years ago. The man had spent the last few years of his life digitizing his consciousness, and when he finally died, his company tested out his experiments once before deciding to shelf it altogether. In the present day, his grandson Bobby, now the president of Vance's company after his death, decides to bring Robert back online, fearing that he just doesn't have the chops, the moxie to run the company alone.
I'm the last of the family. I've got to run the company now, but I'm not sure I can.
Not sure? I was no older than you are now when I started the company.
Robert, or I guess his Skynet avatar, decides to waste no time before demanding that Bobby jack him into the web so he can get a sweet hit of the new and improved internet and all of the information that his 35 years of absence have robbed him of. We immediately get a glimpse of why it is that the scientists who helped Robert develop this tech eventually decided, maybe it's better for all of us if we don't use this crazy shit, if we don't turn it on, and if we just leave it in a room collecting dust for 35 years. 3 decades. That's crazy. Comes to find out, the man is not only super controlling, making demands and orders as soon as he's rebooted, but also, probably some would argue, more importantly, a murderous body-snatching maniac. The thing that was done in Cyberpunk. I guess, really, Cyberpunk wasn't the first one to introduce a story like that. The body-snatching, futuristic personality thing. So Robert, in his infinite wisdom, decides to take over his grandson's body so he can run the company using the poor kid's body like a flesh suit. To set up the process himself, Robert decides to take over Terry's suit. And I mean completely take it over.
What are you doing to me?
It's what I'm doing for you. See, you're not going to have to worry about running the company anymore. That's because I'm going to be in charge again.
In that suit?
Nobody. In you.
One of the downsides of the future Batsuit is that with all the tech components in it, it's easily hacked. The fact that Batman can remotely shut it off from his, cave means that people can hack into it, which is what happened with Robert, because he's literally a computer program. So he just downloads himself into Batman's suit and he slowly but surely takes it over, punching his way out of the Batcave, leaving Terry with just his wits and many quips, as well as, I guess, a few months of training under the Batman himself. My favorite aspect of this episode and why I wanted to talk about it is the fact that through this ordeal, we learn what Terry is truly made of and why he fights, what kind of man he is, or I guess boy, since he's not really old enough yet. With the odds stacked against him, Terry decides that he has to clean up his own mess before Bobby Boy loses his skin. Wayne, though, decides that Terry's not ready for this. He's probably had enough of, sending young kids to their deaths, knowing that he doesn't have any qualms about training kids to fight crime with him. Dude, Bruce is crazy, man. No wonder everybody left. Bruce reminds Terry of the suit's strength. It was capable of punching its way through the reinforced walls of the Batcave. Terry answers Bruce by telling him that he wants to prove to himself that he is the Batman with or without the cowl.
Sometimes I ask myself, is Batman just the suit or is he the man inside? Time to find out.
And begins to leave the cave before he is stopped by Bruce. Wayne removes his old utility belt from his classic suit's display and hands it over to Terry, wordlessly communicating his approval or semi-approval of Terry's decision to go, and symbolically passing the true mantle of the Bat to the young kid. In his speech, she apologizes to Terry, telling him, "I'm sorry I couldn't lend you one of my old suits. They're full of bullet holes and all of that." But Terry just picks out a domino mask from one of the Robin suit displays, puts it on, and decides that it's enough for him. Which I think, honestly, as cool as it would have been to see him don an old bat suit, kind of speaks more to the point of Terry's character being his own man, his own version of Batman. To him, he doesn't need the old suit to take care of this problem. He's not gonna let the fact that he doesn't have one stop him. With or without the domino mask or utility belt, he would still have headed over there. To him, he would have still had to fulfill his responsibilities as Batman. Truly a goated scene. What I love about Terry is that he's really allowed to be his own version of the character. He has his own issues, his own motivation, and his own relationships with other people to contend with. He's not really as cold and withdrawn as Bruce is, and he doesn't really use his Terry identity as the mask. Whereas Bruce Wayne feels like the true version of himself is Batman and Bruce is really just the mask, Terry is Terry both in and out of the suit. He doesn't really let his personality drown out in the background when he's wearing the suit. When he's fighting with the suit, he's always quipping, running out the mouth, trying to help people in the best way he can, and really letting his more human side come out. And without the suit, as we see in this episode and others, he's still willing to fight, put himself in harm's way to help people, and still be that lovable goofball that is Terry McGinnis to everyone around him. I think one of my favorite scenes that shows this is in one episode where he and Maxine are discussing the gossip around his school. And they're just talking about it so casually, and he's saying like, if I didn't have you to update me, I wouldn't know anything about what's going on at school. We get the sense that he's pretty popular at school. Like, he's very well liked and has a lot of friends. He's very social in that way, which is a stark difference from Bruce Wayne's more reclusive tendencies. So he cares about that stuff, which is nice to see. And also, of course, it helps mitigate suspicion as to why he's always absent from school and, you know, how come you're always out of the loop. This is high school, man. The most important thing is who's banging who. Oh, God.
Being, I'd go to pieces without you.
Cynthia? Cynthia? Keep your hands to your... Cynthia!
Go Howard.
I feel like the importance of legacy characters comes from the fact that it allows us to see not just a new version of an already established and well-liked mythos, but also helps us see like the old character that we love and like so much in a new light, in a new role. I love seeing a character that I grew up with, or a character that's had to learn a lot of lessons on their own, or had to be taught a lot of lessons from someone that they admire, become a mentor to someone else. Because what measure of a man are you, or what measure of a human being or man or woman are you, if you can't pass on that knowledge to the next generation and ensure that the world continues to, you know, cherish those values that you care about so much? What use of a Batman would Bruce Wayne be to Gotham if after the 30 or 40 some years that he's able to operate, nobody else is able to pick up that mantle, or nobody else is able to pick up those ideals that he left behind to truly become the next generation's Batman, somebody who can truly carry on that legacy for him? Because, you know, he can't do it forever. I mean, unless DC unless DC has their own way, you know, they're gonna make him do it forever. But I really like the exploration of the universe where Batman's antisocial tendencies drove away all the people around him, as we could probably guess that it would. So all of his proteges, you know, leave him, only to have him be left alone in his big old mansion, just counting the days away, not really being able to do anything more for Gotham besides using his money. I mean, even his company doesn't even fully belong to him anymore. Just a sad version of Bruce, which, you know, that's what happens when you're not allowed to be a full human being for like 30 fucking years. You see, none of this would have happened if he got to marry Selena Kyle. That would have been a Helena Wayne, and then the whole legacy thing would have been Helena's. Something that I really like from Naruto is the whole exploration of the Will of Fire being passed on from generation to generation. From Jiraiya to Minato to Naruto to Konohamaru, we get to see what that does to the different generations that are influenced by the people that came before them. It's just really cool to see what effect that someone's ideology and beliefs has on the people around them, and how those interactions and inspirations help define the original character. Because, I mean, it's really cool to just watch Miles be trained by Peter Parker, because growing up, a lot of us watch Peter Parker learn these lessons himself. You can kind of see the balance that he has to make of letting Miles make his own mistakes and also trying to teach him. Same in Batman Beyond, just watching Bruce let Terry make his own mistakes and also teach him a thing or two, which we get to see in the episode where, you know, Terry falls in love with number 10 from the Royal Flush Gang, and, you know, Bruce doesn't really rebuke him at the end of it, because he's like, I've been there, bro. I've been there, done that. And we know he has with Catwoman. So he occupies this space where he could teach Terry how to deal with new problems, and also, you know, guide him through things that Terry might not be experienced enough to deal with on his own, and also learn from his mistakes and the ways that he trained people in the past that might have driven them away. It's really giving Bruce a new chance to form a new relationship before he dies that takes into account all of his history before in this world, and tries to make you care about, you know, the direction of this character, the direction of this relationship, because we see what happens when he uses the methods that we already know to build relationships. Everybody leaves him. That's what happens at the beginning of the series. He's literally alone in that house. Alfred dies. Barbara decided to go do her own thing. Dick Grayson was like, peace out, bro. I'm done with your ass. So all he really has now is Terry, and he has to, you know, treat him a little bit differently, give him a little bit more autonomy, because he can't go out there with Terry. He has to let him do it himself. And it's really nice to see the relationship that the two of them build over the course of the series, because Terry's more of a jokester. Seeing him get Batman to be more quippy and you know, fun is really nice to see because you get to see a different side of Batman. Almost like Terry is growing on him. Almost like they're both affecting each other in a way. Like Terry is learning a lot from Bruce through, you know, like martial arts and detective work and, you know, how to be a hero and, you know, like the moral compass and all that. From Terry, Batman is learning patience, just how to be a more rounded and understanding human being, which I love to see. I think the best scene of this episode, or season 2, episode 4, is the last scene of the episode where Terry, you know, brings the suit back to the Batcave and Bruce is fixing it up and Terry's like, damn, finally a vacation, I could take a break. And Bruce tells him for the first time, you know, bro, you know, the suit is out of commission, but Batman is still not out of commission, implying that the new Batman is Terry McGinnis. It doesn't really matter if the suit is out of commission. You've proven today that you don't need the suit to be Batman, so you ain't got no break. Essentially, ain't no vacation, boy. Crime doesn't sleep. It's a very good scene. I love it. I love it. It's the first time that Bruce recognizes Terry as, you know, his own version of Batman, and it's great. This episode is just an example of how great this series is. They just try to tell you their own stories, try to expand the Batman mythos in a way that makes sense, in the way that's informed by the lore that we already know about the character. Because most people, you would have to throw a rock very far to land on someone who doesn't know who the fuck Batman is, or at least about his no-kill rule. A lot of people know about him because he's been allowed to be in the media for so long, because he's so popular. He's very profitable. He makes DC a lot of money, like I've said before. So we've got to see a lot of incarnations of him. Heck, they're making like one that's coming out like literally this week as I record this. Like, I'm about to see the Matt Reeves Batman, and I can't wait to see that. But, you know, that's another adaptation of Bruce Wayne. Will it be different? Most likely. We're going to get to see a different part of the lore that we haven't seen before. But seeing an exploration that takes us further beyond the points that we usually explore is really interesting to me. We get to see the future version of Batman. We get to see it through the lens of a different character. So we're not, like, affected by the bias of, like, you know, Bruce Wayne's bias. We get to really see Bruce for who he is, which is just kind of like a sad old man who really tried really hard to save his city, but he went about it in the most inhumane way possible. I mean, it was for a very humane reason. It was really nice that he was trying to like prevent people from dying and, you know, prevent the tragedy that happened to him in childhood from happening again. But he wasn't really making any real connections with people. And the ones that he did make were always secondary to his persona as Batman. And we get to see him in a position where he can see those faults and potentially teach Terry how to navigate through that dilemma so that he can potentially have a better balance. Because not for nothing, Terry also, you know, sees what happens to Batman for choosing the cowl over the people around him. And I'm pretty sure that it affects the decisions that he's making to, you know, stay closer to the people around him. Although I do feel bad for his poor girlfriend Dana, though. She gets run out on the most. Like, I don't understand how they're still dating by the end of the series. Like, he's always leaving her to go take care of, like, the old man. And it's always crazy to me. I'm just thinking, like, bro, this is your whole girlfriend. He cheated on her a couple times, too. Yeah, Terry's his own character.
Hello? Dana, hi. Thanks. Bye.
He's allowed to have character flaws, which is great, but they're different character flaws from the ones that Bruce has. My point today, or the reason why I wanted to make this video, is to, one, recommend Batman Beyond to those who may have not seen it, but also mostly to just talk about why I love this episode, why I love when the mantle of a superhero is passed on to the next generation, or when a superhero that's been stagnant for so many years is allowed to develop and take on a protege to pass on their ideals to the next generation. Because, you know, if you know something really well, you should be able to teach it to someone. Because, you know, like, a lot of these characters are influenced by people that came before them. Like Spider-Man influenced by, you know, his uncle dying. Being able to impart that lesson on someone else is the ultimate test of whether or not, you know, those feelings have truly sunken in. If he's not able to pass it on to the next generation, he might be able to practice it, but he's not really going to be able to teach it to others, which is going to have a wider effect on the world overall, you know? legacy characters are why I love characters like Damian Wayne and, you know, Jonathan Kent. You get to explore a lot more when you add people to the mythos of our already established character. You get to see fresh stories being told with these characters. Like, you know, Super Sons, which is a really great example of this, where you get to see young Damian with young Jonathan Kent. Like, I think Kent was like 12 years old and Damian was like 13. And they got to like team up, and, you know, these stories are really cute. Just seeing those two run around, just like do their own superhero adventures, like in the vein of their parents, is a really interesting angle to explore the DC universe. And too bad that it got canceled, you know, but it really was nice to see a different perspective of the world, not always from the perspective of these characters that we love so much, which, you know, we're always gonna get, because not for nothing, we all know they're not gonna give up on Batman. We're getting like two Batman centric stories like back to back. We're getting the Robert Pattison Bat. We're getting the Robert Pattison movie pretty soon, and we're gonna get the one with Michael Keaton coming out. I guess it's a Flash movie, but they're bringing back Michael Keaton's Batman in that movie. Which, you know what? The reason why I brought this up is I think Michael Keaton could play, you know, old Bruce and train Terry in the future. Maybe they're gonna give us a TV show. Maybe they're gonna give us a series. I would really love a Batman Beyond movie. That would be like the best thing to do, especially now that they're like allowing like multiple Batman projects to happen within like years of each other, because they're doing this whole multiverse thing. Just give us a different multiverse version of Batman that's training a young version of Terry. That's all we need. Just make him a college student, so like the whole weirdness of like, you know, of him being a high schooler being forced to fight crime is it like, you know, I just want him to have a little bit more of an autonomy as like a grown up to make a decision. Yeah, I'm going to put my life in danger, not like a grown man being like, I'm going to put this child's life in danger. That's, you know, child endangerment is never funny. But yeah, wouldn't it be cool to see Michael Keaton as a dude training the next generation of Batman? Like, it would be so nice to see Terry McGinnis in live action. I think Wes and I were talking about it. We're going to make a video, like, with our own pitch of what it should look like. So, you know, tune in for that. Subscribe for that. But if you like this conversation about legacy characters and, you know, you feel like I missed something and you want to add to the conversation, please do. The comment section is always available down below, and we're always reading them and replying and all of that. And maybe, who knows, you might give us an idea for a future video that we can come back here and talk about, because obviously I missed some stuff. I wanted to go more in depth about the whole Jiraiya and Naruto thing, but I feel like this is not what this video is about, so that's for another day. But thank you for watching. I've been Offtrack Seb. I will catch you on the next one. Enjoy that Batman movie. Great debate. We'll make a great debate on the Robert Pattison Batman movie soon too. But if you made it this far, thanks. You're a real one. Oh, shit. Really, thank you.